To what now?
Everybody needs to hit the got it. Otherwise you'll be kicked out. As everybody,
Because this is a public record, so they have to make sure that we're.
right. So right now we're streaming online and the whole world can hear us. Okay, well, welcome everyone. As you know by now, hopefully, everybody has received the packets. We have 4 applicants for the vacancy created by Chief Judge Merlin Wheeler. And what we need to start off with is Shelby taking a moment to call into the conference line to see if anybody is waiting to get in. That the conference line is for comments. They don't actively participate. But Shelby, if you could do that, I would appreciate it.
Yep, I'll do that right now.
Hello, and welcome to the meeting. Please enter your passcode followed by the pound or hash key, and I'll connect you. Thank you for joining Global Meet. When you hear the tone, you will be the first person to join the meeting. The line will be silent until another person joins.
Hello, is anyone there? It doesn't appear anyone's on the conference call line, but I will leave it open for the duration of the meeting today.
Okay, thank you, Shelby. So one of the things that happened when Shelby sent out your packets, she also sent the names and relevant information to the investigator in the disciplinary office so they could run some background checks. So what I'd like to do to begin with, and I'm a non-voting member, so I don't think that I'm the one that can do this, but we do have some information that we might we will want to go into executive session. Now, an executive session is where we talk about confidential information that has been provided to us. And that is an exception to the Kansas Open Records Act. We can talk about financial information or any other information that has come up in the background checks. So do I have a motion to go into executive session at this point?
So moved.
Okay, Greg has moved. Do we have a second?
Just a question, Justice. Most of the time on executive sessions, we have to have a period of time that we're going to be in. Do we need to have that for this meeting? In other words, do we want to have it for like 15 minutes?
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Mike. I don't think that this is going to take more than 5 minutes.
I would.
Yeah, thanks. Good point. Okay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Yep.
Okay, either Mike or Bob has seconded it. And at this point, Shelby is going to put us in a different room.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and try to do that here. It might take just a minute. I'm going to want to make sure it's not showing live when I move us to a room. And I want you guys to remember, when I do move you to this room, you're going to have to join the meeting again when we come back. So don't just totally exit out of it, or I think it will kick you off the meeting. So here we go. Did you guys get invited to a room? Let's see, how do I make myself go?
You made it.
Are we the only two back?
Apparently.
I questioned what the CA did and what involving Laura.
We're in open session right now, so
I understand.
yeah. You made it.
Well,
Are we missing one person? Oh, there she is.
okay.
Okay.
Motion from one of the group that we did not take any action during executive session. And that we're not taking any action based on the executive session. I think that's correct.
I agree, Your Honor. I think just to be safe with the Open Meetings Act, that we need to have it stated that there was no action taken during the course of the executive session.
I agree. I'll note that for the minutes.
I am so happy you guys are familiar with the Robert's rules, because I'm not. So you're being very helpful for me. I appreciate it. Okay, at this point, we need to discuss whether we want to interview all 4 applicants. And I don't know whether you guys want to discuss that or whether you want to go straight to a vote.
Your Honor, let me ask a question that I was unsure of, because I know maybe the rules have changed. How many do we have to send to the governor?
At least 3, but up to 5.
Okay.
Good question.
Ma'am, this is Charles Rail. This district has had a history of having judges serve for a long period of time. One of these applicants is from out of county and is widely traveled. And I do not see a need to interview her because I would question whether or not she is going to use this as a stepping stone for something else, or whether or not she is a good viable candidate for the judgeship. I have some questions about the others, but I don't see a need to interview her. One of the things that bothered me is the number of times she's changed jobs in recent history. I mean, she's been all over the state of Kansas in various capacities. And it seems to me like that does not lead to what we're looking for as a judge in this community. Lyon and Chase County have a history of having their judges stay for long periods of time, except that, as I recall, early in my practice in 1970 something, we evicted a judge non-retained by the largest plurality that's ever happened in the state of Kansas. And I think that's the only time that we've done that in this district. So my line of thinking is that this is not someone that we need to interview.
Okay, before we have further discussion on that, I do want to tell you, I don't have it pulled up right here and I probably should have. But the statute says that if there are not enough applicants that reside in the county, then you can consider out-of-county applicants. Now, there is some tension there because it's not some tension, but what the statute says also is that, an applicant doesn't have to be a resident of the county, but they do when they're sworn in. And by the time they're sworn in, they have to. But there is the other part of the statute that says if there are not enough applicants that reside in the county, actually what it says is if there are not enough qualified applicants, who live in the county. Then you can interview, doesn't say interview, then you can consider applicants that reside outside the county. Now that puts us in a position where if you guys, I'm a non-voting member, if you guys decide that you're not going to interview the out-of-county person, which is Elizabeth Oliver, then that leaves us with 3. And we have to, or you have to submit 3 names to the governor. So I'm not sure in a situation like this, whether it's even necessary to have interviews, because when you interview people, you don't rank them when it goes to the governor. So the question becomes, do we feel like we have 3 qualified applicants? And if not, do we reopen it to get more qualified applicants? So with that, I'll let you discuss how you feel.
Well, from my position, I think all of the attorneys know all of the applicants very well. So the decision to interview rests hard on how well the other non-attorneys feel about interviewing them. I mean, so we know their temperament, their decision-making ability, their writing ability. There are a lot of things we've gleaned from the record. But, I'd like to hear from the non-attorneys if they see what they say.
Sure. I'll comment first. The reason I would interview is if those that you don't feel they're qualified. If we're going to open this up, if we're not going to open it up again, there's really no point in us interviewing because we're not going to change the outcome. But if there's some concern, if there's some thought that if we get to know them through an interview process, more of us may not feel comfortable sending their name. And so I can't say not to interview, but I would defer that to the attorneys to give us that information, whether or not these people are qualified. And if there's some concern, then I think we need to interview with the consideration that we're probably going to open this process back up. Because I don't want to send 3 names, and I don't want to send somebody to the governor that should not be sent to the governor, just because that's the number we have.
So just to summarize, what I hear Greg saying, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is even though the attorneys seem to know all 3 applicants that reside in the county, the non-lawyers don't, and it would be good to interview so the non-lawyers could determine, and even, something could come out in the interview where, even lawyer members may determine that not all 3 applicants are qualified. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah, but again, I know a number of the attorneys here, so I would defer if they're comfortable, then I'm fine, but then I don't see a reason to interview. And if there's some question on their part, then I think we need to go ahead and go through the process. We do it the right way, but then with a thought process, we're probably going to delay the process and open it back up.
Well, Greg, I will tell you, I think it's very noble of you to defer, but there is a reason why there are non-lawyers on the commission. And so I don't believe it's a good idea to defer. Each one of you has a separate vote, and each one of you, look at the qualifications in your manual and see what the qualifications are. And each one of you decide whether or not they're qualified to be sent to the governor. So I would hesitate to defer.
Okay.
Okay, Steve, I'm sorry, I might have interrupted you.
Profit.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would actually like to interview. I like to do face-to-face, and since I only know one of the candidates, I would prefer to interview.
I
agree with Leanne. I know one of the candidates. I don't know the other ones, and I would have, and I don't know the attorneys, and so I would have some misgivings sending 3 people if I knew the attorneys. I understand Greg's position, and I might agree with that if they all think that these 3 are qualified, but unfortunately, I don't know the attorneys and I don't know the candidates except for one. So I would feel more comfortable that I had done my job if we had interviews.
I agree with this, with all those statements, especially the small number of candidates.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, Deanne, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I'm sorry, I just feel like we should go ahead and interview all 4 candidates since it's a small number.
Oh, so you would like to interview all 4,
Correct.
even out of county? Okay.
Your Honor, this is Mike Helbert, and I understand where Charlie's coming from. But you know, there's different levels of whether they're qualified. Do you meet the statutory requirements to be qualified? Or are you qualified to be a judge? There's a difference between those two.
Huge difference.
For like judicial temperament, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Not,
Exactly. And I think, I will tell you, it's only going to take us a few more minutes to interview all 4 of them. I think we do it. I think it's better for the whole process. I think I think the optics will be better for the public to see that we took the time to interview all the applicants.
I'd have to agree with Mike. I particularly with the laypersons involved, I think they need to meet and interact with these applicants and kind of get some knowledge of their background and how they react when they're under fire. Certainly we attorneys have seen that, but everyone else hadn't.
okay, so there are 2 issues to decide. The first one is, do you want to interview all 4 candidates?
No.
Um,
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we not interview the one from Anderson County because she's out of county. And
Okay.
I don't see that she's gonna add anything to the mix. So I make a motion, we not interview her, but I agree with the other people that we should interview the 3 remaining candidates that have more ties to this community. To give the opportunity to the laypersons on the panel to perform their duties. So that's my motion.
the only thing that well, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second Charlie's motion.
Okay.
So I have a question. If we interview 3 and after the interviews, we decide that only 2 are really qualified, then what do we do with the 4th applicant that we didn't interview?
Right, that's what I was going to bring up during the discussion, because if we're interviewing in person and it is determined that one of them is not qualified, then that automatically kicks the statute in saying that a non-resident can be selected if there aren't enough qualified applicants.
Madam Justice, I think the statute is pretty clear. If you serve 5 years as a lawyer and you're over a certain age, which I think this shown in the materials we received, I think that the 3 are qualified in that sense. In the sense of being the best qualified, I personally like to interview them because I plan on writing a letter of support for whoever and listen and order to the governor. And I think that we have a duty as on this commission to inform the governor of why we made the decisions we made, and we might rank them for her, and not necessarily as a commission, but as individuals.
My question is, will the governor interview all of the candidates in person?
Sometimes governors do and sometimes they don't. I mean, I think that the default is yes.
You think what? I mean, I didn't understand it.
Oh, I'm sorry. The default is yes, the governor will interview all 3 of the names sent up.
Well, we have a motion and a second.
Is there any more discussion? Okay, then we'll go ahead and take a vote. The motion on the floor is to decline to interview Elizabeth Oliver as an out-of-county resident. All those in favor of not interviewing Elizabeth Oliver, please raise your hand. Okay, I see 2 votes. Am I missing any? And all those who would like to interview Elizabeth as an out-of-county resident, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. The motion does not pass. Okay. So at this point, what we need to do is allocate reference checks to each of the commission members. And this is the first time that I'm working with this commission. I've worked with many others, but and I know there are some people that have been on the commission for quite a while. So this is kind of up to you. What normally happens is each commission member is assigned a person to check references. And when I say references, I mean the application requested names of judges they've appeared in front of, names of opposing counsel that have been recent, reference checks, personal references, professional references. So at that point, each person will kind of follow up on all those in anticipation of next week. And then during our discussion after the interviews, or it may prompt some questions from the commission members, then that will be part of the interviewing process. The way the numbers turn out is we have 4 applicants and 8 commission members. So what I would recommend, but again, I'm just here to facilitate, is that we put a lawyer with a non-lawyer for each applicant. And that way you guys can kind of split up how you're going to do it. If a judge needs to be called, generally it would probably be the better practice to have the lawyer contact the judge that the applicant has appeared in front of. So at this point, I'll just leave it up to you guys to volunteer to who you want to do background checks on. You can either just volunteer, or I can go in order of how you are on my screen, or I can say, go in alphabetical order and say who would like to do background checks on Jeremy Dorsey. However, whatever your preference.
I have no preference.
I have no preference, so I would suggest we just go with the order on your screen.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So the first person on my screen is Steve. Steve, is there someone that you prefer to?
I have no preference on who to investigate or who to work with either. I'm sure.
Okay, then I'll give you Jeremy Dorsey because in alphabetical order, that's the first person. And then is there a non-lawyer member that wants to team up with Steve?
No, I'm glad to. I'm not particular.
Okay, right. In alphabetical order, the next person is Doug Jones. Oh, well, no, we're going in alphabetical order. Bob, do you have an order of the screens? Bob, do you have a preference?
You're muted, Bob.
Not at all, Your Honor. Just any of them would be fine.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to give you Doug Jones because that's the next person in alphabetical order. Does anybody want to team up with Bob?
I'd be happy to. Fine.
Okay. The next person on my screen is Leanne. Leanne, do you have a preference between Laura Miser and Elizabeth Oliver?
No, I do not.
We'll go
Either
in.
one.
I'm sorry?
Either one is fine. Yes.
Okay. So I'll give you Laura Miser.
Okay.
And does anybody want to team up with Leanne?
I don't have any preference. I don't not want to team up with all these other people either. Just so you know.
Justice, this is my go. You can put me wherever you want me. I have no preference.
Okay. So one thing that I am going to say that is very embarrassing, but I am unsure. I mean, who is a lawyer and a non-lawyer? So I know Steve's
Not a lawyer.
I'm sorry?
This is Cindy. I am not a lawyer.
Okay. Leanne, are you a lawyer?
No, I am not a lawyer.
Okay. Charlie, are you a lawyer?
I'm a retired status lawyer.
Okay. So I'm going to put you with Leanne. Is that okay?
That's fine with me.
Okay. Okay. And so that leaves Elizabeth Oliver, which leaves us with, let's see, Mike. And do you go by Cynthia?
I go by Cindy, but it doesn't matter.
Okay. All right. So Jeremy Dorsey is going to be Steve Atherton, lawyer, Greg Bachman, non-lawyer. Laura Miser is going to be Charlie, lawyer, Leanne Crowfoot, non-lawyer. Elizabeth Oliver is going to be Mike, lawyer, Cindy, non-lawyer. And Doug Jones is going to be Bob, lawyer, and Deanne, non-lawyer. Is all of that right?
Yes.
Okay, great. And so you can meet with your partner. Since interviews are a week from today, you can meet with your partner, maybe later this afternoon and discuss how you're going to split it up. Okay.
Could we exchange that information right now so that we know how to get in touch with each other?
Oh, that's it. Well, we're live, so I don't know that you want everyone to know your phone number. I think you all have each other's email address from when information was sent to you through Shelby.
I got it.
Okay. All right.
You don't have it on your copy.
I think I do, but I'll give you another copy just in case.
Okay, so the next agenda item on the agenda prepared by Shelby, which I want to give her a shout out. What Shelby and I have been working together on these judicial vacancies. And what she does is, in order to pick the chronology of the order for what time each applicant is going to get, is she basically picks the name out of a hat. And then it's just completely random. And she has done that. And if you guys want to do that, then 9:50. I'm sorry? Did someone?
Madam Justice, I move that we do the hat random drawing for appointments for the interviewees.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. So here are the order of the interviews. Randomly, Jeremy Dorsey will go first. Laura Miser will go second. Elizabeth Oliver will go third. And Doug Jones will go fourth. Each interview is scheduled for 30 minutes. We're going to meet we'll meet at 8:30 and we'll just kind of mingle and get prepared. We'll open the meeting at 9 and there will be little breakfast snacks for us. We'll open the meeting at 9 And this is a meeting that's open to the public. It will not be put on Zoom. It will not be live streamed. So anybody that wants to be there, consistent with the Open Meetings Act, then they can attend at the Lyon County Courthouse in the Jury Assembly Room, which is 201. And there will be a press release that goes out with that information. So at 9:15, after we've opened the meeting and done introductions, then Jeremy Dorsey's interview will be from 9:15 to 9:45. And then from 9:45 to 10:15, we'll interview Laura Miser. We'll have a break from 10:15 to 10:30. At 10:30, we will interview Elizabeth Oliver until 11. At 11, we will interview Doug Jones until 11:30. At that point, we'll do balloting, and if anything comes up in your reference checks that is subject is one of the topics for executive session, we can go into executive session there as well. And then we'll vote and then adjourn. The only question I would have is, since we're done at 11:30, do you guys want to take a lunch break, or do you want to just get it all done?
Get her done.
Yep, get her done.
Yes.
I agree.
Okay. So we'll just plan on going. If it ends up that we do 2 or 3 hours of discussion, during the balloting, then we can make a decision about whether to take a break at that point. But at this point, we'll just plan on discussion and balloting at 11:30 a.m., an announcement, and then we'll adjourn. Any questions about the agenda for next week?
Yes, ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
The last time I served on one of these, we had an exclusion of the candidates that were before us, the applicants, from the room. And the reason for that was I plan on asking very similar questions of each one of the applicants. And I really don't think it's fair to the first applicant to receive a question from me and second, third, and fourth applicants be sitting in the room. I don't think that's fair. Because my
I agree.
questions
Agree with that.
have to do with listening skills.
Okay. So let's construe that as a motion to exclude. If you can sit in on interviews after you've interviewed, but you cannot. You're moving to prohibit candidates who have not yet interviewed from being in the room. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mike seconds it. All right, any discussion? Well, I'll start off the discussion. I would need to just do a little bit of research on that, because it is, or maybe I defer to you guys. It is an open meeting. And so, and I'm just speaking from experience when I interviewed for the Supreme Court position that I have now. They respectfully requested that, but it wasn't a mandatory requirement because it may be a violation of the Opens Meeting Act. So now I'll open it up to discussion.
I have another observation. I don't have a strong feeling about this, but it occurs to me that the last person that we're interviewing, Doug Jones, then would not be allowed to sit in on any interviews, but Jeremy could sit in on 3. And I guess that doesn't matter. It doesn't affect what we decide, but it seems maybe look unfair. I don't know.
Well, I think, Justice, I think that you're correct now that even though I seconded that motion, I think it is something that we would have a hard time justifying under the Open Meetings Act to exclude anybody, because theoretically, anybody in the public can be there, including during the time that we finally make a decision. I'm a little bit used to that from being on the school board, where you have to debate openly and you have to, every vote you cast is a matter of public record. But it sometimes is difficult for people who haven't been in that position before, but I think that's what we have to live with. I would appreciate it if we did a little research to see if there's any exception to that, to the rule on that. And if not, then maybe the thing to do would be to make the request like they made to you. And I quite frankly think that the candidates would honor that request.
I
think
would
the
agree.
candidates- Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Well, I think the candidates would certainly honor the request if it's made by the commission as a whole. I think they would realize that would probably have some impact on our thought process if they decline to do that.
I agree with that, and that's how I like it.
Okay, so
Mike- Sorry.
do you want to make a friendly amendment? I guess that's what it's called, to the motion, instead of having a directive that making a request from the commission when they get their letter telling them what time their interview is, to include in there that the commission respectfully requests that you not sit in on any interview that precedes yours.
I think that's an adequate position.
Okay, was that Mike or Charlie?
That's Charlie, and it was his motion, so he's agreeing
Okay.
to that amendment.
Okay,
Then I would second the amendment as you have stated, Ms. Justice. So,
okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Okay. Okay, okay. All right, well, I guess, well, no, I'm just gonna do that. Before I get to any other matters to discuss, I do want to plant a little seed in your head. For those of you who are new on the commission, that the whole process kind of depends on you asking questions that you think are important to determining whether or not which candidates would be the most qualified or even qualified at all. So in your manual, which I do believe Shelby sent everyone a manual, the most updated manual, there are a list of questions, and you can review those in anticipation of next Thursday, but you are definitely not tied to just those. You're not limited to those questions. You can ask any question you want, as long as it's not an illegal question that would violate someone's, like Title VII. You can't discriminate based on gender or race or religion, national origin, things like that. So anything related to that. But if certain things are important to you, I'll just pull one out of the hat. But work ethic. If you feel like it's really important in your county, to have a strong work ethic, you can ask a question about work ethic. So if you would be thinking of what the things that you think are important for whether or not a judge has the correct judicial demeanor, an applicant would have a judicial demeanor, or would they have the right work ethic or the right priorities, or, you could give me an example of when you demonstrated that you could prioritize, giving a very large list, to-do list. So you can pick whatever you want. And that's why, the diversity of this group, that's why it's so important. is that you ask the questions that are important to you. But it would be good if you asked a question. You can ask 3 questions, we are having 30-minute interviews, so I think there'll be plenty of time. You can ask follow-up questions if someone else, let's say Charlie asks a question and that piques something in your mind to say, or triggers to say, oh, I want to follow up on what Charlie said. So I encourage you to be ready to ask questions, because that's the best way we're going to get the most qualified candidates. Any questions about that?
Yes, ma'am, I have a question. This is Charles Rell. In your information that's sent out, is there a collection of notes after we get through with the meeting, the Open Meetings Act, or am I wrong about that? In other words, if I write down notes about the answers to the questions, is that subject to the Open Meetings Act?
It is not, but we do, like you said, have to collect them. And we will keep them for 3 years. Shelby will be the custodian of records on that.
I just
yeah.
want to know if I was correct on my.
Right. That's a very good point, Charlie. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
And the notes you take as you're doing background information, and calling references, same thing. Those are not subject to the Open Records Act, but we do have to keep them for 3 years.
So are those records kept at the office of the Supreme Court or the?
Yes.
Okay.
And there would have to be justification to see those. So
I have a question about the ballot. How will, I presume that you've used ballots in the past, and so there's sort of a standard, but will it read, how will it, I guess I'm just curious about how the ballot will read in advance.
okay, so it really isn't going to be a ballot like that. At some commissions, it just depends on the commission. So this is something else to think about, and you don't have to decide today. Some commissions just raise their hand, and some people do balloting, but you do have to put your name on the ballot, and those are subject to an Open Records Act request. So either people can raise their hand, or they can you can write it, and then a reporter would need to make an open record request with the Office of Judicial Administration to get how each person voted. Now, Charlie may be a good person, and I don't know, Steve, you've been on the commission a while, right?
This is my first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Charlie may be our guiding light here, or we can think about other ways to do it. But since, given our applicant pool, usually what I've done in the past or recommended, and you guys are the people that ultimately decide, is say, who write down or vote for your top 3. We have to send 3 names. So, then I will tally the votes. And since you get to vote for 3, the 3 people with the most votes will go on to the governor. We do have a small wrinkle here because of the statute that says if we don't have enough qualified, then you can recommend someone from out of county. So we might have to take a preliminary vote. And again, we can do that by balloting or by raising hands about whether or not we have enough qualified. So, but, on the other hand, I don't know that these are legal issues, but since you can send 3 to 5 names up, you could send up all 4 because, you could say, well, we didn't have 5 qualified applicants apply. So we're going to send up these 4. So, so maybe what we do is.
How do you read, Madam Justice, how do you read 202909 sub 2 or sub 3B. It says if there is not at least 3 attorneys deemed qualified.
Oh, okay, so it is 3. Yeah, because it just now changed in the last couple of years, the 3 to 5 being sent up. So they haven't changed that part of the statute. So Charlie raises a good point. Yeah. So we would have to decide, you know, whether or not the 3 people that are residents are qualified. And if not,
Disqualified, no.
so we'll probably have to make that decision first. Any other questions? All right. Charlie, I want to specifically call out you and tell you thank you so much for being our rock with all your experience. I very much appreciate your input.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I think you have everybody's email, so you can go ahead and touch base about the background checks. If anybody has any questions, please direct those to Shelby. I don't believe that we'll have to have another meeting between now and when we meet on the 11th at 8:30.
Madam Justice, this Charlie Rail, I move we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are officially adjourned. Thank you, everyone. See you next week. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.